The gymnastics squad beat a pair of ranked programs. Temple football is adding some new names to the roster.
There's some men's basketball on a 3-game skid, and the team made some moves by changing the status of one of its players. We'll explain.
I'm Cam Murray at the studio set. Coming up later in the show, I'll be highlighting the players in the women's basketball team who have been stepping up following the dramatic roster changes.
And I'm Tatiana Harris, live from Howard Field, here to dig into the women's lacrosse season opener, where we saw big plays from big players. OwlSports Update is live, and it starts right now.
Hello and welcome back to OwlSports Update. Alongside AJ Patel, I'm Jesse Demetchlouvet. The men's basketball team has been struggling as of late.
That's right. The men haven't been in the win column since January 28th. They dropped one at home against number 3 ranked Houston and then got upset down in Dallas against SMU. That brings us to the latest loss.
The Owls at the FedEx Forum against the Memphis Tigers, hoping to avoid a 3-game skid. Picking up early in the first half, Jameel Reynolds over to Nick Jourdain for the beautiful two-handed flush for 2 of his 10 points on the game. Battle tries to dish it to Reynolds, but turns it over for an easy 2 here by Elijah McCaden. Second half now, DeAndre Williams powers his way into the lane for 2 of his 26 on the day. Hicks on the inbound pass, picked off by Davis into Kennedy, who throws it off the backboard, but McCaden is there to finish it off. Kennedy puts the final touches on this one as the Tigers win it 86-77, giving the Owls their 3rd straight loss.
Yeah, I was just hoping that we'd be able to get some stops at some point, string together some stops, and we didn't do it. And so I wanted to they were starting to get really comfortable offensively, and I wanted to just kind of give them a different look. We didn't do a good job of containing the ball handle, and they were just getting penetration and drop-offs against us. And I'm gonna mention turnovers. So our turnovers, got us in trouble, and they were careless. It wasn't that they were like full court, just pressing us, running and trapping. They were just containing us and keeping us in front, and we just had some just careless turnovers.
Senior Ryer Sayers didn't see any time against Memphis, but he's still having a better week than most. Sayers was surprised to find out that he earned an athletic scholarship, much to the delight of his teammates. This is Sayers' 2nd full year with the Owls.
Win or lose, Temple's basketball program has a striking social media presence with over 20,000 followers on Twitter and Instagram. Let's take a look at the powerful team that carefully crafts its content. OwlSports Update's Tatiana Harris has more.
Vaughn Moss has the best seat in the house, at practice, at games, and in the locker room.
My favorite part of this is really just about building the brand and telling the story of our student athletes.
Moss is in charge of digital marketing for men's basketball.
I think it's just important that in the world that we live in 2023 that the social media side of it is really a huge part of how people connect with us. The way that fans show their fandom in 2023 is a lot different than it was even when I started in this business, so like 2008.
And Paige Weishaupt is right there by Vaughn's side, creating video moments like the locker room celebration after the Houston win in January that's gotten almost 25,000 views.
Our goal is to tell the story of the team in the best way that we can, just like their personalities, the coaches, everything that goes on in their programs.
Vaughn and Paige are just 2 parts of the very large social media team that works hard to capture and produce content for Temple men's basketball on the road and here at home at the Liacouras Center.
We have over 10, student workers and interns that work on our team.
The Temple Athletics Media Department serves as the world's exclusive gateway to Temple's teams and legacy.
another road win, you know. Came over though.
As Moss and Weishaupt lead a dedicated and prepared team of creators, we can expect plenty more of unique athletics content to come. Reporting from the Leah Core Center, I'm Tatiana Harris.
I don't need to say nothing.
OwlSports Update.
I don't need to say nothing because y'all know exactly what you need to do.
On to the women's side, Diane Richardson's squad is also looking to rebound against Cincinnati after 2 straight losses. Tierra East right here puts on the brakes and pulls up for 2 of her team-leading 19 points. Coranda Perea uses her 6'2 frame, picking up an offensive rebound and a chance for a 3-point play. Now Aaliyah Nelson does her best Kyrie impression and nails the deep ball. Clarissa Gregg gets the ball moving for the Bearcats. She finds Jillian Hayes to pick up a team-leading 4 assists. That puts the game at 61-58 Cincy with just over 2 minutes left in the fourth. The Owls were able to force overtime, but they struggle in that extra frame for a loss, 74-66.
We just got to be tougher. Got to be tougher. It's still good. I mean, we still got to keep it up because, I mean, we still have games to play. So the locker room is fine. It's just a really tough loss, especially at home. But the locker room is still good. I mean, everybody's still kind of like, we're still like in good spirits, you know. I mean, yesterday's a loss and now we're back to like 3 straight losses, but probably focus, lack of focus. We're just missing defensive assignments. That's all I can really say on that. It's just a lack of focus. I mean, it's just a tough loss. You know, there's 2 games that we could have won playing Cincinnati than playing like ECU.
By now, it's pretty established the women's team is playing shorthanded after losing 4 players over the last 2 weeks. OwlSports Update's Cam Murray is at the studio set to take a look at how these departures are impacting the players that are still here. Hey, Cam.
Yes, a new look for the Owls has created new roles for current players. Following the departure of those 4 players in late January, the Owls are leaning on some members of the team who hadn't been playing a lot this season. Since the end of January, the Temple women's basketball team has seen some dramatic roster changes, with 2 players being dismissed from the team and 2 more leaving the program shortly after.
Now we have the shortened roster. Everybody's stepping up and stepping up their game, so they've banded together as a team and are willing to do more.
Number 3, Michaela Walid, and number 11, Coranda Perea, have increased their contributions on the court. Walid has seen a jump in playing time, going from an average of 3 minutes to 12 minutes per game. With only 8 players in the active roster, this creates an opportunity for current players to increase their role and step up their production on the court. Perea has increased her offensive production as well. At some point over the last 4 games, she set career highs in minutes played, rebounds, 3-pointers, and points. She even picked up her first career double-double with 10 points and 13 rebounds against Houston.
Just having more opportunities and taking control when I have opportunities in the game and looking for my shot a little bit more because we need more scores. Sophomore guard Tiara East has already become one of the key playmakers for the Owls this season. Now with an increase in minutes, she sees her role expand even more.
It's allowing me to take more shots, get more opportunities, and it's also allowing me to play different positions.
The Owls look to get back on track this Saturday against Houston. The Owls have gone 3-3 over the last 6 games since the roster change. They started with 3 straight wins and follow with 3 straight losses. Their last loss came to Cincinnati, that sits at last place in the AAC. Reporting from the studio set, I'm Cam Murray. Guys, back to you.
The women have been struggling as of late despite strong performances from Tiara East and Aaliyah Nelson averaging 15 points per game. The Owls' last win dates back to February 1st. It all started to go south when they traveled over to the Lone Star State with a tight loss against the Houston Cougars. They were then defeated by the East Carolina Pirates 67-52. Temple was back home on Saturday at the Leah Core Center, ultimately falling to the Cincinnati Bearcats, marking a 3rd straight loss for the Owls.
As you can see, there's a lot going on with Temple basketball, both teams. So now we welcome in Brielle Berry. She talks Temple hoops every Tuesday on our Tuesday show, Courts in Session. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. I mean, the men's team, they've been struggling as of late, but they've been able to put up 70 points in their last 2 games. They're having a 3-game losing streak. How do you think they adjust the defense moving forward in this home stretch of the season?
So in Sunday's game against Memphis, the Owls were without their best defender, arguably, in Jaleel White. To put that into perspective, he's the leading rebounder in American Athletic Conference play, and Memphis's DeAndre Williams had 26 points, 12 boards, so you would imagine that Jaleel would probably have been guarding him. Also, Aaron McKee really preaches the help and recover, which is something that Temple really needs to work on going down the stretch. They need guys like Jaleel White, Damian Dunn, Caleb Battle, and Jameel Reynolds to really step it up defensively these last few games.
Now on to the women. Tough overtime loss there against Cincinnati on Saturday. What can they do to change their season around?
Yes, so 4 games left in the regular season for the women's team before the American Athletic Conference. SMU is a good team. That's someone that they're playing in these last 4 games. I don't think they'll have a chance to win against them, but if you look, they also play Houston, UCF, and Wichita State, and I think they can get wins against all 3 of those teams. Only 8 players on the active roster, so Temple's working with what they have right now.
And Aaliyah Nelson and TR East have led the way for the Owls. Do you see anyone else able to step up?
So someone you didn't mention that I want to talk about is Karanda Pereira, shooting 48% from the floor and 39% from 3 in the team's last 4 games. She has had double digits in 3 of those games, so she's been huge for the Owls. And also Tariana Gary and, of course, like you mentioned, Aaliyah Nelson. They've combined for 104 threes on the season. To put that into perspective, last season the entire team had 103 threes, so very impressive stuff.
Thanks for joining us, Brielle. Looking forward to seeing more of your basketball coverage on Tuesday in Courts in Session.
It's time to take a quick break. The Temple lacrosse season has officially started with the win over Vermont and a close loss to Ohio State. We'll take a look at both games when OwlSports Update is back.
Back to OwlSports Update. It was a long minute 30 break, but it was an even longer offseason for the lacrosse team that's played in its first spring game dating back to last May. The Owls are sporting their white unis, getting off to a fast start, managing to score 4 goals in the first quarter. Maeve Tobin starts her senior campaign shooting across her body for the first Temple goal of the season, letting Vermont know why she was all-conference second team last year. Carissa Cross runs to her right and hits the post and sneaks this one just under the goalie's foot. 8 different Owls scored, including Bel Mastro Pietro, who got that hat trick. This game gets physical. Attack Amelia Wright, sandwiched by 2 defenders, fights through heavy contact to get a shot at. After further review, this goal didn't count, but regardless, Temple starts the season in the win column, beating Vermont 10-5.
2 days later on the road versus Ohio State, this was a close one for the first half. The Owls led 5-4, but the Buckeyes scored 5 of the 6 goals in the third quarter to take the lead for good in Temple's 1-goal loss. Julie Schickling scored 4 times in the defeat. We'll dive deeper into the Owls' win against Vermont that saw 8 different scores. OwlSports Update's Tatiana Harris is live at Howard Field with a look.
Jesse, not too many surprises in the opening week for Temple lacrosse. The Owls did face 2 quality opponents. First, that season-opening home win versus Vermont was a good start for Bonnie Rosen's squad. The Catamounts were last year's American East champs. But it was the road game at Ohio State which really showed just how good Temple can be. Yes, the Owls lost, but remember, they led at the half, lost by just 1 goal, 10-9. And this came on the road to a nationally ranked team. A few records were in play at Ohio State. After passing the 200 mark, Bel Mastro Pietro is just 32 draw controls away from breaking a Temple record. Defender Katie Shallow was named AAC Defensive Player of the Week on Monday and just tied the AAC single-game ground ball record of 8. The Owls face George Washington this Saturday at 1 p.m. Reporting from Howard Field, I'm Tatiana Harris. Back to Jesse and AJ in the studio.
Thanks, Tatiana. The lacrosse team, along with other 18 varsity teams, has to monitor its food and drink. And now they've got some help. The athletics department hired its first ever dietitian, Jacqueline Catamaccio. OwlSports Update's Jake Gable has more.
Temple Athletics has existed since 1894, but it took until now for Temple to hire its first ever sports dietitian, Jacqueline Catamaccio.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Now just weeks into her job on North Broad, Catamaccio is already making some big changes.
I also have taken kind of full control of the nutrition lounge. So that is an area where athletes are able to get snacks. They're able to get like pre-workout and post-workout snacks like for their practices.
There are 19 varsity teams at Temple. Catamaccio is in charge of every one, and she's met with almost every team.
So really just getting them to understand general nutrition is what I've been focusing on, but the rapport building has been my main focus as well.
Both basketball teams started their seasons before Catamaccio was hired, but she has already spent a good amount of time with them to give valuable tips.
Just like choosing our meals wisely, like the portion sizes, the types of carbs and like proteins that we should be eating.
Because I feel like you could train as much as you want, but it's what you put in your body. You know, it's like a car. It's like what type of gas do you put in your car?
Just like Dezzoni said, your body needs fuel. And just like how every car is different, there are different types of fuels to get your body going. One thing Catamaccio makes clear is that every athlete is an individual with unique needs.
I always tell teams, what works for your friend, what works for your brother or sister might not work for you.
Reporting for OwlSports Update, I'm Jake Gable.
We're getting ready to take our second break of the day.
When we come back, Jess and I will take a look at a sport that's yet to be featured in our top 3 plays of the week.
Temple football coach Stan Drayton continues to add to his first full recruiting class. Earlier this month, Drayton added 7 more players to his growing list of 32 recruits. 4 of the 7 on this list play defense with 2 on special teams and 1 tight end. Overall, the goal for Drayton right now is depth.
Where your courses are going to come from. We're very excited about what we have going on right now with these new players in our program. Yeah, the thing that was special is that they chose Temple, right? And these are guys that are helping us to fill some positional needs from a depth standpoint. The one thing that is a reality is that you cannot, practice and obtain the goals that you want to obtain without having some quality, walk-ons on your football team. But I do want a level of maturity in every position. I want a level of experience in every position. And obviously, we just got to make sure that we're getting the right guys to fit the mindset that we're trying to develop here at Temple. We're just we are getting around our football players, harnessing relationships. We got a lot of new faces that are on our team right now that we got to get to know them. We got to get to know their personalities. We got to get to
Temple Gymnastics took a road trip down to Maryland to take on 3 of the top 4 squads in the EAGL, and they stuck with the competition. The 7th-ranked team in the conference was able to secure some upset wins. OwlSports Update's Patty Heckard has the story from McGonigal Hall.
Temple Gymnastics are making up for a slow start to the season. The team started off the year with a 1-4 record, but have followed that up by winning 6 of their last 7. This includes this past weekend, when the Owls placed second at a 4-team meet at Towson. The Owls beat Pitt and NC State. Both teams are ranked. Their only loss came to the host team, the Tigers. For the second straight meet, the floor team set a season best of 48.6. And on the beam, Temple finished with 5 straight scores of 9.8 to close out the event. Head coach Josh Nilsson said after the meet that his team came in as underdogs, and they beat the top rank and the 4th top ranked team in their conference. He added, it wasn't a perfect meet, but it was a complete meet. The Owls are back at it on Friday down at George Washington. This meet also includes North Carolina and Yale. Reporting from McGonigal Hall, I'm Patty Heckard, OwlSports Update.
Temple remains in 7th place in the EAGL conference after the quad meet last weekend. The host Towson moves from 3rd to 1st after their 3-0 performance in its home meet.
The Owls have the chance to climb the ladder in the conference standings next week. They participate in a quad meet against George Washington, UNC, and Yale on Friday. If the team can manage to increase their competition average by a singular point, they would have a top 5 team in the conference. After that, the Owls will be back on Broad for the Ken Anderson Invitational. You won't want to miss it. The first 150 fans get a free Temple t-shirt. Moving from the gymnastics mat to the court and field, it's time for us anchors to show the plays we've been crushing over this week in Jess and Jay's top plays.
I know I've had my eyes on some great plays, and what a list to choose from. We start out at number 3 over in Memphis here. Damian Dunn dishes it over to Caleb Battle, who just drills the 3 there. Let's check it out one more time. Battle just buries it. He was almost at the logo on that one.
Yeah, that's right. When I saw that live, I thought for sure that was NBA range. For the second player of the week, we move over to the turf at Howarth Field. Carissa Cross gets this one and gets lucky, hits the post, sure, but everything about this goal is calculated. Let's take another look. She gets checked low, gets the goalie to bite up top, and then spikes that ball into the ground. That's just the senior showing her experience.
On to number 1 now. Aaliyah Nelson putting on the sweet moves here. Beautiful crossover, pulls back and nails the jumper. What a play from Nelson, who has been cooking as of late, even as the women's team is struggling.
That's right. It's time for our final break of the day. When we come back, we'll tell you about a team on campus that is one of the best in the area.
But they don't get the glory or resources that the 19 varsity teams do. We're talking club baseball and its new conference when we come back.
We're back at OwlSports Update. The club baseball team is one of the best in the area. Despite their practice field being under construction, they are maintaining a high quality of play. With the spring games starting up and in a new conference, the team has a lot of adjustments to make. OwlSports Update's Liam James reports.
Temple does not have a Division I varsity baseball program, but here it's hard to tell. Temple's club baseball team is one of the best in the area. The Owls went 16-4 last year, but the team lost in the conference tournament to Salisbury, 7-6 to end its season. Success is being noticed, however. The Owls were just moved up into the National Club Baseball Association's Division II Chesapeake Conference. This means more travel and better competition.
We're trying to win the conference, of course, and we're all just getting better every day.
Temple cut its Division I baseball program in 2014 for financial reasons, but the club still allows the spirit and love of the game to continue.
It's 2 hours to play baseball, my favorite sport, all growing up, and I look forward to just hanging out with the guys. It's just what it is. It's just baseball.
Like any competitive team, the club practices 3 times a week to keep up their high level of play. But what the practice really exemplifies is the amount of fun they have and their love of the game.
I'm going to sound like Russell Westbrook, but really the ultimate goal is to have fun. We want to go out there and enjoy ourselves.
The team's promotion to another conference was unexpected and means facing clubs like Villanova and traveling to Washington, D.C. to face Georgetown.
We honestly didn't know we were getting transferred at all into a new conference until like the summer.
The team will continue to practice at the Temple Pavilion to prepare for their first conference matchup against Westchester on March 11th. Reporting for OwlSports Update, I'm Liam James.
Friday night, the gymnastics team heads 140 miles down I-95 to take on George Washington Colonials as part of a quad meet. Lacrosse will also be in the nation's capital as it takes on the Colonials Saturday. Women's basketball will be back at the Leacore Center versus Houston Cougars at 2. The men will also be home on Sunday against the Tulsa Hurricane. Tip-off is slated for 2 p.m. And the gymnastics team will round out the weekend at the Ken Anderson Invitational Sunday at 6.
Wrapping up our coverage is my least favorite part of the show, but that's all we have for you today.
For the entire crew, he's AJ Patel. I'm Jesse Image-Louvet. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.